Hello, and welcome to this first webinar by my Smile Coach. Thank you for giving up your valuable time. And while I don't want to waste your precious time, I do think it's important that I introduce myself so that you can trust me as a credible source of this information that I'm going to give you now. So I'll tell you that I'm an actively practicing general dentist. I've been working for 11 years in Ireland. I currently work in a private practice in Wexford. And while I treat all age groups, more than half of my clinic time is actually spent caring for children. And so that's given me a huge insight and a unique perspective into the number of children dealing with problems in their mouths. And from chatting to parents every day, day in, day out, I realised there's a huge gap in knowledge about all things dental for our children. Many of us are from that generation that were actually seen by the school dentist. And so I think it's fair for us as parents to have presumed that today our children are going to benefit from that same system. Unfortunately, this is not the case. So, okay, let's get started and figure out why that is. As I outline the limitations, some of the issues in both the public and the private dental care pathways, I really want to emphasize, okay, just right now, that it may seem bleak. So it might start off feeling a little bit bleak, but I don't want you to leave this webinar feeling hopeless. I want you to leave with a really good grasp on the pros and cons of each pathway in Ireland. And that way you're going to feel empowered to make the best choices as early as possible for your kids. You're going to finish this webinar knowing, let's have a look now, about the public dental pathway, private dental pathway, the waiting list problems with both of them, and of course the importance of booking that all too important first dental visit, why it's important, when you should do it. So first we're going to have a little look at HSE, right? So here I'm going to outline what your children are technically entitled to. The HSE offers some dental services free of charge for children up to the age of 16. And these dental services are provided by dentists in your local HSE dental clinics. The HSE offers free dental appointment to all children in certain classes in primary school and to children with special needs. And if after these checkups, if they do indeed happen, which you're going to find out now if that's the case, any follow-up appointments would technically be made with your local HSE dental clinic if needed. All children under the age of 16 years are entitled to emergency treatment. So technically you would call your local HSE dental clinic for an emergency appointment. Generally, it tends to be that they'll offer you to come in and sit and wait from about 9 a.m. in the morning. Now, there are two things that I would like to highlight to you about the HSE public dental service so that you're fully informed. These things are not new, but as parents, they may be new information to you, and it's important that I get you that information as early as possible. Firstly, due to the lack of dentists in Ireland, while the HSE dental service protocol is excellent, it is absolutely hampered by the fact that it cannot get dentists to fill all the posts required for the system to work. What does this mean for you and your child's teeth? It means that in some areas of the country, children are either not seen until 6th class, or in some cases, there was a recent case where they were seen in 5th year of secondary school, or in some circumstances, they're actually just never seen. So what are the repercussions of that for you? Why is that important to know? Well, early signs of decay are not caught. Cavities develop, that leads to pain, abscesses, fillings, and sometimes the loss of adult teeth at a very young age. Developmental growth issues are not caught early. That would be if your jaw is growing in the correct or incorrect way. That's not caught. And the earlier it's caught, the earlier intervention will cost less and take less time. But because these aren't being caught early, what's ending up is you're having orthodontic treatment later in life that's a lot more complex and sometimes can never really reach the ideal it could have had it been caught at an earlier age. I'm at pains to point out that this is not the fault of the HSE dental service. It is simply a numbers issue. There are not enough dentists for our rapidly growing population. Secondly, so I've said to you, technically, of course, you are entitled to see them for emergency appointments. They will see your children. However, if your child then requires multiple fillings, extractions, then they'll usually need to recommend that that treatment is done under general anaesthetic. This, of course, is on a case-by-case basis. Some children don't mind dental treatment, but many need help in the form of sedation. They're only little, and no dentist, let me tell you, no dentist will ever want to push your child past their coping capacities. Unfortunately, there are issues currently with huge waiting lists for children to have dental treatment in hospitals under general anaesthetic. So we can see here in February of this year, the journal had an article about a 3-year-old boy, like only 3 guys, so young, so little, and they were told they'd have to wait for 10 years for 3 teeth to be removed. I mean, you do the math. We know as parents, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, as in like they won't have to be seen because by the time 10 years have passed, those baby teeth are long gone. But what isn't gone are the loss of sleep, the horrific memories, the abscess that required probably multiple antibiotics, and perhaps then a very negative relationship for that child with their own teeth and with any dentist they might come across in the future. So, sorry, now I've gone too far. Now that you know that your children are likely to be screened late, or in some areas never screened at all for their teeth, huge. Let's look at how the private pathway looks and what costs are involved there, because that's going to be important as well. The first issue there is actually that the workforce crisis that we can see today in the public dental service is putting immense pressure on the private sector, which in turn is impacting access and waiting times for children, even privately. So we've got difficulty in securing any appointment. In July of this year, an Oireachtas debate mentioned findings from the Irish Dental Association that due to high workloads, more than 1/3 of all of the private dental practices in Ireland, more than 1/3, are not taking on any new child patients. Next, we've got, it's expensive. These expensive dental bills when specialist care is required. And of course, if screenings are missed, if early signs are missed, the care required later tends to be more complex and there's a higher chance it needs to be referred to paediatric specialist. So here I have on the screen for you just up-to-date fees from a paediatric specialist private clinic in Dublin. If your child requires treatment on many teeth and requires general anaesthetic for it, you're going to spend anywhere between €3,000 and €6,000. And while there are no cases in which, while there are cases in which this will be unavoidable, there are many cases for which early prevention techniques implemented in the home could have prevented this crisis. And I know that's a strong word, but I see these families when I have to make these referrals, and it genuinely is a family crisis because few of us have that kind of money hanging around. It's a very tough time, and it honestly breaks my heart when I know there's no other option, because I'll do whatever I can for my little patients, but I know there's no other option for them. And I also know as a parent the toll that cost is going to take on that whole family. So actually, just to try and tie all that in together for you now, both the limitations in the public pathway and the private pathway, and when more care is required under general anaesthetic, I'll share with you a recent case that I think helps illustrate just how complex things can be on our island. I had referred a little boy for general anaesthetic with a private specialist in Dublin. He required work on 6 baby teeth, a mix of work. Some needed fillings, some needed stainless steel crowns, little crowns over their baby teeth, and some probably needed extraction as well, but that was going to be looked at with the specialist. So they were seen by the specialist, triaged, they booked his hospital date, and that was 3 months later because that was the next available one. In the meantime, he developed constant pain with 2 of the teeth that needed treatment. So immediately I advised the mom, look, go to the HSE, plead your case, explain to them that he's in pain now. Privately, they've tried to push up the date, they weren't able to. So I was actually glad to hear it. She returned to me and she said that he had the work done under general anaesthetic and he'd had it done publicly. So I thought, this is brilliant. He's all done. We can start caring for him locally now. We can start building up his confidence in the dental chair. However, she had to quickly correct me and say that while they had put him under general anaesthetic and they had removed the 2 teeth that were abscessed and causing the constant pain, they didn't address the other 4 teeth. What does that mean? It means that woman still had to keep the other general anaesthetic date with the private specialist in Dublin and have the other 4 teeth treated under a second general anaesthetic. you can understand as parents, this is not an ideal situation. Yes, the child is being cared for. It's good, but it's not ideal. We would have loved all of that work to have been done under one general anaesthetic. Okay, so I've said all that. I'm going to cast your mind back to the start of this. Do you remember what I said? That you might be feeling a bit bleak at this point. Okay, I'm not going to let you leave this webinar feeling that way. I'm going to make sure now in this last section that you leave knowing what first steps need to be taken and feeling reassured that you've got this, because you do. So let's take a look at how to get ahead of the problems, and where possible, let's avoid them entirely. The first is simple. Just get that first appointment in the diary now. I'm going to give you a second to literally pop a reminder on your phone or add it to your to-do list. Now I'm thinking about my own to-do list. Now I'm feeling overwhelmed. Like the parenting to-do list. It's insane. It never ends. Just think about the next thing I'm meant to be getting done. Okay, you should have popped the reminder in now, or popped in the diary. So, why, if I'm asking you to make that first appointment, why are routine checkups so important for your children? Why am I putting such an emphasis on this and on getting it done as early as possible? The first is desensitization, which is just a fancy way of saying get them used to the sounds, the smells of the clinic, get them used to seeing the same familiar faces, create a relationship with the dentist, all of which is going to set them up for success in the long run, especially if they suffer a dental trauma or if indeed they need more complex dental work done in the future. So traumas, what about those? If your child has a dental trauma, and I tend to tell parents it's not a case of if, it's more so a case of when, but if that does happen, it is hugely beneficial that they're already familiar with the clinic, the staff, the dentist, and the feeling of someone minding their mouth. Speaking of dental traumas, it can be very hard to think straight when your child has had a dental trauma. It's an emotionally charged moment for everyone. And honestly, I spend a lot of time comforting the parents more so than the child. It's very upsetting for us. Of course it is. There are babies, always are babies, no matter what age. So I highly recommend, there's an app that's both available on iOS and Android. It's a Tooth SOS app. You can see it up on the screen there. That's really handy to have. I really like it. So the next one, pain. Like, if they're at a high risk for decay, despite all of your hard work at home to prevent it, then it's best that their first experience of the dentist isn't after a night awake in pain with low energy and high anxiety. It can leave a lasting memory of, when I go to the dentist, I'm in pain. A good tip for setting yourself up for success with the first visit is to make sure it's early on in the day, because we as dentists were unlikely to be running behind because of extra emergencies that have been booked in. And then your child also is well rested early in the day and hopefully well fed. What I'll do actually is I'll send you the link for that tooth trauma app and my 5 top tips on preparing your child for their first dental visit. I'll put that in the post webinar email, and once you filled out the quick, I promise it's quick, feedback form, I'll send those on to you. So, okay. What do we know now after only a few minutes together, I hope? We know how the private and public pathways work in general gist of it, the issue of long waiting times for appointments, and the high cost of treatment when required. And the importance of booking their first appointment or registering them, because sometimes you can't even get the appointment in yet. You have to first register and they'll contact you when they've gotten to you on their waiting list. Importance of doing it now with your local dentist. We know that's so important now. I'm hoping you're all going to leave, and that's, if you take nothing else away from this and that's the only thing you do, I'll be really happy. If you're now wondering, right, okay, but what can I do while I'm waiting for an appointment? Like, what's the best toothbrush? When do you start brushing? Do kids even floss? What's the best toothpaste? And if you don't know the difference between healthy foods and tooth-friendly foods, and no, they're not the same, unfortunately, then you've met the right person, me. So in our next webinar together, I'll share simple, effective tips that you can implement at home right away. These are the quick wins that can help you secure your child's dental health and set them up to be a Starfish patient for life. It's real advice for real life, for real parents. I'm a parent too, nothing fandangled. I won't be sending you off to buy expensive toothbrushes or fancy toothpaste. We're going to use what you have already at home. I mean, unless you literally don't have a toothbrush, in which case you're going to have to buy a toothbrush. And actually, I advise all parents to buy lots of toothbrushes. I'll explain that in that webinar. So, what's the dream? By the end of our next webinar together, you'll have the tools to ensure your child might never need more than one routine checkup once a year. It's a big dream. I want that dream for you and your children. What made me start this project was a number of parents who told me, after a 30-minute in-clinic conversation about their kids' diet, brushing, the whole family's habits when it comes to oral care, was, Rebecca, this is all so simple. If I'd just known this sooner, I would have done it. You need to tell parents when their kids are young. We should all know this stuff. And my philosophy is based on the starfish parable, which many of you probably know, but if you don't know it, there's a boy throwing starfish back into the sea after they've washed up on the shore. And an older man comes along and he points out that there's too many starfish to make a real difference. And the boy throwing them replies, it made a difference to that one. I know I make a difference every day in clinic helping my little starfish patients, but I don't want my life's work to be only that I was great at getting kids out of pain or guiding them through a tough appointment when we're pulling out like 3 baby teeth out of a 6-year-old in one go because of a huge abscess. I want my life's work to have been about preventing them from ever getting to that point, ever having that memory. If you do nothing, absolutely nothing after this, other than please register your kids with your local dentist, but if you never follow my work, please just share what you've learned today with all the parents in your network. That parent you meet on a playground bench, the parent you meet at the school gate, you'll be saving another starfish and we'll all be making a bigger difference together. I truly believe that. I know in my heart that if I teach one dad or one mom, I'll actually have taught 10 because we share with each other. We learn from each other. And if you want to keep learning with me, I look forward to seeing you in our next webinar in the series, where I'll guide you through everything that builds a healthy smile for your child. So you can reach the dream goal of a starfish kid who only ever needs their one checkup once a year, and you do all of it from the comfort of your home. So look, thank you so much for giving up your time. I know it's a free webinar, but time is absolutely precious when you're a parent, and I fully appreciate that. Like I said, I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and I'll be sending on an email, and if you can fill out the feedback form, I would be so grateful. Anything you think of. If you want to reach out to me on Instagram, I just started once with that. If you want to reach out to me by email as well, I've got the Gmail address, and you'll get that anyway when I send you the post-webinar feedback form and emails with those tips and helpful bits added into them. So yeah, thank you so much for being here and for listening to me, and I hope you leave with some really good ideas from what we've spoken about now.